Okay, today we're going to do a vegetable bean soup. It's getting to be that time of year where you want some hearty hot soup, so hope you enjoy this one. So I got to throw some props to Lydia Bastianich for the inspiration of this. I'm not doing it exactly the way she does hers, but it's close enough that I got to give credit where credit is due. If you don't know who Lydia is, look it up. You can find her cooking show streaming. Very good. She's a very accomplished chef. Okay, here's the team. That bowl of beans in the back, those are navy beans, and they started out dry, but these have already soaked. Two ways you can soak beans. One is overnight. The other is put them in a pot of water, enough water to cover the beans, bring them to a boil, and then let them sit in that hot water for about an hour. In either case, after either one, drain them, rinse them, and then they're ready to cook. They're going to cook in this soup. Veggie team is onion, celery, and poblano. Lydia would use carrots instead of poblano, but I want the extra zip. The protein and most of the flavor actually is coming from that bacon. Next to the bacon, you see the riced cauliflower. Lydia would have used regular rice, but I'm trying to avoid carbs. It's working, by the way. I'm down a few pounds. And then that herb mix in the front is my five horsemen: basil, oregano, rosemary, thyme, and sage, and then you never cook without salt or pepper. Okay, so Lydia used a food processor on her veggies, and I don't have one. Maybe my children are watching, and they'll get me one for Christmas. But anyway, we're going for basically a fine dice here, so sort of like if I had run them through a food processor, but since I don't have one, well less than quarter-inch pieces. So like the celery, instead of cutting it in half and then chopping it, I'm cutting it in fourths and chopping it. Obviously, the slices on the onion were pretty small too. And then the poblano, because I want the zip, I'm not really going out of my way to remove seeds or stems, except in one case I had a big seed explosion, and I did not try to gather them up from around the kitchen and put them back in here. But again, sort of matchstick cuts, and then you can cut these to, well less than quarter-inch pieces. Laundry room herb garden is still going strong, so the five horsemen here basically remove leaves from stems, discard stems, and then once you got nothing but leaves, put a nice fine chop on it, and that's the other part of the flavoring for this dish. So I forgot to get video of me chopping up the bacon to small sizes, but it's not that exciting. So basically a little bit of olive oil, get the bacon in there, and what I'm going for is I want the fat starting to render pretty significantly, because that's what's going to flavor the vegetables that are going to go in here next. It's a big flavor component of this soup. Alright, you can see we got plenty of rendered fat, which means it's now time for the vegetables that we chopped, or actually diced small, I would call it. I'm not really sure what the criteria is for chop versus dice and all that. But anyway, veggies are going to go in. We're going to let those release just a little bit of liquid, and then once that has happened, it's time to bring some water to the party, but that's right after I dump in my herbs, because that's the other major flavor component here. And when we bring in the water, I went with about 4 cups, but really what I'm looking for is the water to essentially just barely cover the veggies and the bacon, because we're going to let this simmer just a little bit, do salt and pepper, and then we're bringing it to a boil, because we want it at a boil when we bring those beans back into play. Okay, so salt and pepper, we've done that, and now we're at a boil. It's time to bring the beans to the party and get those mixed in and let that water essentially finish cooking the beans. Once we've got it up to a boil, then we're going to take it down to a simmer for at least a half an hour to get those beans fully cooked. Once that happens, then it's time for the rice, or in my case, the riced cauliflower. And riced cauliflower, all you do is you stick it in the microwave per the bag instructions, and you're done. And then I'm just gonna dump that in here. I end up adding about another cup of water, and here's the result. This was really good. So let's say, for sake of argument, that you're trying to eat vegan or vegetarian. I don't recommend just removing the bacon from this recipe and replacing it with nothing, because you're going to be absent some flavor. So if you do want to remove the bacon, brings salt, fat, and smoke to the party. So my recommendation would be about a half a stick of butter and some liquid smoke and a few extra shakes of salt. And if you're vegan and the butter thing is bumming you out, then I would go with a little extra salt and keep the liquid smoke, because that is vegan, and then go with some coconut oil or some other kind of fat. Olive oil might even work, but 3 or 4 tablespoons worth. But this is spectacular. About half of it's already gone in the house. It is a great fall comfort food, and quite healthy because it's full of vegetables.